this is a big day for Scotty. And Around the Horn, it's its last episode. Now, and Scotty, I swear I'm not going to be a prick about this, but you are officially the only person I know, and I like you a lot. You're the only person I know that is upset about Around the Horn going off the air.
Well,
so tell me why.
That surprises me. You should reach out to more of your journalist buddies.
Tell me why. Tell me why Around the Horn means so much to you.
Yeah, and I texted some buddies about this just to corroborate that my experience was not unique. And
I wasn't on the chain,
and it was
obviously.
not, right? So Around the Horn's been around 23 years, and I am 32 years old. So since I was 8 or 9 years old, Around the Horn's been on TV. This was mandatory after-school viewing for me, starting in about 4th or 5th grade. I would get home from school about 4 o'clock, and it was immediately, if I could get my hands on the remote, Around the Horn and PTI. That's how I got hooked on sports media, sports content, professional sports outside of, I grew up watching the Rangers and the Cowboys, but outside of that little bubble, totally Around the Horn was one of my gateways into this sports media world. And as I started becoming interested in doing this as a career, Around the Horn is so unique because it highlights journalists. It gave these newspaper columnists and writers this platform to demonstrate their acuity, to give you stories from where it's happening, whether it's Chicago, New York. I was introduced to Tim Kalishaw through Around the Horn to get my Dallas stuff, but also Jackie McMullen, Woody Page, right? All these legendary writers I got to know and started consuming their content because I was exposed to them on Around the Horn. So I think it's really unique in that perspective. They were doing the debate thing better than First Take or anyone else way before the debate format kind of overtook the network.
Yeah.
I think Tony Reale, I've watched several interviews with him.
Yeah, let's talk about your boy Reale.
Yeah. I've watched several interviews with him in this week talking about this. I think he is uniquely charismatic and gifted and optimistic in a way that's attractive and makes him a good host. I told you, just to get all my vents out of the way, I'm a little pissed off that supposedly he went to ESPN saying, hey, can we move towards YouTube? Can we modify the show? Can I do more to make it better? And they're like, nah, we're cool. And then kind of behind his back, they were getting ready to take it off the air, even though it's still doing really good ratings for an afternoon block.
Good?
According to I think Washington Post article I read, It is still doing really good ratings.
And by the way, I can say this. I don't know how ESPN operates with that. That's something I know nothing about. Like, I know about my little corner of the world over there. But a lot of times, like, let's say in local markets, whether like in Philadelphia, we had the great sports debate, right? That would be on Prism, our like local sports channel. And then it was on Comcast Sports Network. And another iteration, the name had changed, but it's a bunch of journalists sitting around yelling about sports. But it was clear to me those guys didn't get paid. It was like a promotional opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And every sports writer, especially back then, wants to crawl out of their cave and be on TV.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. My point is, I don't know how much overhead went into Around
I don't
the Horn.
either.
I can't imagine it was like an expensive show.
I do know Tony Reale.
Obviously, he's salary.
This was in the Washington Post article I read. He has not taken a raise in a long time and is actually making still less than $1 million a year because he wanted to keep the show on the air. I did read that Woody Page has actually made more money off that show than Tony Reale because they pay him so much per episode. Okay. And he's obviously on just about.
Woody was part of the first crew.
He's been on the whole way.
2003?
Yeah, somewhere in there. He's been 2002, I think.
Yeah. 2002 it started, right?
Yeah.
So he was part of the original
He's been on the whole way, right. So second most appearances and second most wins is Tim Kalishaw from Dallas.
Now, that's our guy.
Yeah.
Kalishaw is amazing. I love Kalishaw because he's sober, but also Kalishaw is, I did feel, and this is like the get off my lawn.
Yeah, come on.
This is the get off my lawn.
Come on.
I felt like we lost some of the TJ Simers or the, like you said, Woody Pages or the, Ron Borges, old guy from Boston, like some of the crusty guys for this new wave of writers who, for whatever the reason, and because times are different, the show took on a more political tone, and time over time, and a lot of times, every time you were giving somebody their final, what was it called? Like the last, whatever.
FaceTime, right?
Your FaceTime,
or the last word or whatever.
Whatever it was, like they go on a 30-second political rant. Like, and I'll tell you, look no further than, and this is a great example of how, like, I don't let politics, like, or try not to, like, eat me up. So I love Kate Fagan. She was a beat writer for the Sixers when I worked in Philly. Kate and I are definitely, like, probably not aligned politically. And the last episode she was on, she talked about trans kids should play. Like, I don't agree with that, but, like, I still love Kate. And I'm just like, you know what? But I think that type of voice can be just totally hyperbolic for some people at home.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate if we live in it, because they asked him briefly. I watched his realities interview on Dan Patrick this week, and they asked him something about the politics and the stuff.
Yeah,
and he said, all we've done is let people talk, like you said, on the last word, and I don't hit the mute button.
No,
he's like, I'm not making a statement. ESPN's not making a statement. So it's kind of sad to me if we can't, and I'm not accusing you of this.
No.
If we can't, as a society, let individuals say, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
And say, like you just did, oh, that's Kate Fagan's take.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't disagree more, but I love Kate.
Right.
Like, whatever.
That's fine. That's not, that to me, if that's a reason we can't watch television, the last word, thank you, Scotty B. If that's a reason we can't watch TV anymore, like, that's just sad to me. But
I do think.
But part of what's fun, again, part of the fun of this show is you're getting to know the journalists.
Yeah.
And so, like, some of them have takes we disagree with politically or otherwise.
Yeah.
But, like, these journalists were allowed to come on to the biggest sports network in the world, give their opinions, share who they are. And I feel like most of America, especially my age, who grew up with Woody Page on there every day, we feel like Woody Page is our crazy uncle.
Oh, for sure.
And it's awesome. Like, I don't think journalism has been highlighted on a national level like that in many places. I think maybe 60 Minutes in a sense, or some other, but in terms of sports journalists writing around the country, it's just the death of that era, right? As we move more into influencer YouTube era.
I think there was also, and this happens a lot in sports media today, and I've even been party of this on the right end or the wrong end. People really aren't cutting their teeth before they're going right on television. So, and what I mean by that is, as a kid growing up watching the sports reporters on ESPN, right? It was Dick Schaap, Jackie McMullen, Bob Ryan, Mitch Albom. These are guys who had been writing for decades at the time.
Right.
And had been in every locker room. I mean, they knew everything about everything, at least appeared. And they were such blowhards in an affectionate way that it certainly appeared that they did. I think that the new, they putting people on there Sarah Spain, let's say, just for a bad example, for instance, 2 years, 3 years out of college, putting her right on the air. I felt like was a little bit of, okay, if now you're going to get these people who are coming, go tell them on the Mount style with whatever they feel, whether it's sports or whether it is politics, that there's it, and this is I'm just giving you the devil's advocate. There's a sticker shock or an eye test that isn't passed there because some of these people were so young. So I believe there was a disconnect, and I think at some point, it got, and I don't like this term, it got labeled as woke, and I think that was the death nail, and it's everything that you're not talking about, by the way. You are talking about the good stuff, and why you loved it. But I think from a broader stroke, right? I think that's what happened to the show.
Well, I think that's
your rebuttal. What do you have?
My rebuttal is A, I think that's unfortunate. B, ESPN has never had a problem with other hosts and other shows making opinions known about whatever the politics of the day. So I don't know that that's reason to cancel a show at ESPN based on precedent. But mostly I would say, I would encourage everybody, by the way, anybody watching, go watch any of Reality's interviews this week.
He's an amazing guy.
Or read that Washington Post article, because he gets asked all of this. Everything you just mentioned. He gets asked about, hey, you're bringing on some influencers now, not just the journalist. Hey, I think Dan Patrick, again, that was a 40-minute conversation. Asked him, hey, so some people say you talk about politics too much and you've gone woke, blah, blah, blah. And he responds to that. So, I can't respond as well as he can respond. But I found his answers to be, exactly what you want to hear if you're ESPN or if you're a viewer. Like,
Okay,
anyway.
you mentioned our boy Kalishaw.
Yeah.
Who was your, like, do you have an underrated favorite? Somebody who's like, not maybe quite the household name, like not the J.A. Adonde, but somebody.
Oh man, I like J.A. Adonde. Hold on.
I love J.A. Adonde.
Let me look at my list here again, and I'll tell you. Because
I'm looking at some of the names.
when I was a kid growing up watching, like Kalishaw was my favorite, just because I was living here in Waco and he was up in Dallas.
T.J. Simers, Jay Mariotti. Now Mariotti was amazing.
He was,
and he got in some domestic thing.
Yeah, he got in
and he disappeared. He was like so excitable and always had good points. The Chicago thing came through. His eyebrows, I remember being like, "What the hell is going on with those?"
Yeah.
But it was theater every day. And it started off with Max Kellerman as the host, and Kellerman did a fantastic job. Remember, Reale was Stat Boy for, and to me too, that was one thing. It wasn't like ESPN or anybody asked me to pick a side, but I was so head over heels for Pardon the Interruption that that was my.
Well, and they're keeping that one.
Yeah, of course they are.
Well, I would say they should keep this too.
Oh,
so I will tell you the two, and you may not like either of these people on the show. The two that I really like, looking through this list again, and besides the big names, right? I love Jackie McMullen. I love Tim Kalishaw. Woody Page is a legend. I really, and I've told you this before, I think Mina Kimes is just so good every time she's on TV.
She's amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
Like by far to me the best woman in the space who freaking knows football.
Dude, she's done. I was lucky enough to go visit my brother a couple years ago when it was Rams preseason, and she was doing analysis. She was like the
so
color
good.
analyst in the booth for Rams preseason games, and she was awesome. My brother Kev loved her.
Yeah.
Like she's really good.
I would say Mina, and then the other one that I don't know what he's doing anymore because that show with Jamel Smith was so bad. I like Michael Smith.
Yeah, he was great.
And when he was on Around the Horn, he was always really entertaining.
Yeah, he was. And the thing about Michael Smith, there's a line with Michael Smith, he would really get pissed. He would go into the red. If somebody would challenge him, and it's funny, it goes back to the RG3 Ryan Clark thing.
Gosh.
If he sensed you were at all drifting towards the personal space, he would just shut you down. And I used to think this guy's a badass. And Michael Smith is a great example because as young as he was thrust into the Patriots locker room as a beat reporter for the Pats, the Bill Belichick Patriots. So you want to talk about a guy who earned his stripes.
Right.
And that was a bummer what happened to him and Jamel Hill with that Sports Center on the 6.
Let's check in with some comments.
Is King there?
King is here.
He is. Okay, let's do some comments and then we'll get to the great King McClure.
We'll get King McClure. So Scotty B says Tony Reale will be fine. He will find somewhere else. I'm confident he will do something. I hope. He was talking about
he's going to be fine.
He was talking about he's looking at game show hosting. I really want to keep him in the sports world somehow, some way. I hope it's a sports gig.